First Contact and Confrontation. Commander Vance Reed stood at the viewport of the UNSS Defiant, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel. After 18 months traversing the void between stars, they had finally reached their destination, the Arcturus system, 37 light-years from Earth. Approaching final coordinates, Commander, Lieutenant Kira Chen reported from the navigation console. Sensors are picking up unusual energy signatures ahead. Reed nodded, his weathered face reflecting the distant starlight. At 45, he was considered young to command humanity's most ambitious expedition, but 2 decades in the United Earth Space Command had prepared him for the unexpected. Full stop, Lieutenant. Deploy sensor array. Reed turned to his science officer. Dr. Okafor, what are we looking at? Dr. Nadine Okafor's fingers danced across her console. Sir, I'm detecting artificial structures in orbit around the 4th planet. And energy weapons discharge. Her voice rose with a mixture of excitement and concern. Commander, we've just stumbled upon an active space battle. The bridge fell silent. Humanity had long theorized about intelligent extraterrestrial life, but confirmation had always remained elusive. Now, it seemed they had not only found aliens but caught them in the middle of a war. Main screen, Reed ordered, and the viewport filled with the impossible sight of 2 distinct fleets engaged in combat. One group of vessels gleamed like polished crystal, moving in elegant formations that seemed almost choreographed. The opposing ships were darker, asymmetrical constructs that moved with predatory purpose. The crystalline fleet appears to be losing. Tactical Officer James Wong observed. Their formations are breaking. They're being systematically outmaneuvered. Reed watched as 3 crystal ships were encircled and destroyed by the dark vessels. Keep us at distance. Protocol is clear. First contact situations require observation only. We are not to interfere. But fate had other plans. As the Defiant maintained its position, a damaged crystal ship veered off course, trailing energy plasma. Before the human crew could react, the ship transmitted a broad-spectrum message, a mathematical sequence that required no translation, a distress call. Sir, they've seen us. Communications Officer Layla Nazari reported. They're broadcasting directly to us now. Can we translate? Reed asked. Working on it, Nazari replied, but their basic message is clear. They're asking for help. Reed faced the hardest decision of his career. Earth's first contact protocol explicitly prohibited interference in alien conflicts. Yet allowing the crystal ships to be destroyed without attempting assistance felt wrong on a fundamental human level. Tactical analysis of the Dark Fleet's weapons systems, Reed ordered. Wong studied his readings. Sir, they're using energy weapons that operate on predictable frequencies. Their attack patterns follow distinct mathematical sequences, almost algorithmic. An idea formed in Reed's mind. Are they scanning us? Yes, Commander. Both fleets are actively scanning the Defiant. Reed made his decision. Lieutenant Chen, plot an approach vector to the nearest engagement zone. Randomize our shield harmonics. Tactical, prepare to fire warning shots. Variable energy output, no consistent pattern. Sir, that's a direct violation of protocol. Executive Officer Marcus Davis objected. Noted, XO. Reed replied. But we're 37 light-years from home, with no precedent for this situation. Sometimes humanity has to trust its instincts. The Defiant surged forward, shields pulsing with changing frequencies. As they approached the battle, 3 dark ships broke off to intercept. They're locking weapons, Wong reported. Evasive pattern Delta 6. Reed ordered. Fire warning shots, random targeting. The Defiant's railguns discharge. Projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The shots weren't aimed to hit, merely to demonstrate capability. But something unexpected happened. One projectile grazed a dark ship's shield, and the shield collapsed completely. Direct hit, Wong exclaimed. Sir, their shields failed catastrophically. Reed leaned forward. How is that possible? Our weapons technology should be primitive compared to theirs. Dr. Okafor's voice was filled with excitement. It's not about technology, Commander. They're using predictive defense algorithms. Their shields are tuned to stop the kinds of attacks they expect, but they've never encountered humans before. They have no baseline for our tactics. The dark ships regrouped, clearly reassessing the new threat. Meanwhile, the Crystal Fleet took advantage of the distraction to reestablish their formation. We're receiving a transmission from the Crystal Fleet's command ship, Nazari announced. They've adapted to our communication systems remarkably quickly. A voice came through, speaking accented but understandable English. Unknown vessel, we are the Luminary Alliance. You fight with unpredictable patterns that confuse the Void Collective. We offer alliance. Over the next 72 hours, the Defiance crew learned the basics of an interstellar conflict that had raged for over 3 centuries. The Luminary Alliance, a coalition of 11 spacefaring species, had been slowly losing ground to the Void Collective, a hive-minded civilization that conquered through absolute efficiency and unpredictability. Your species fights unlike any we have encountered, explained First Emissary Ilara, a tall, luminescent being who led the Luminary Diplomatic Corps. The Void uses quantum prediction algorithms to anticipate every move in battle. They have cataloged the response patterns of all known species, except humans. In a secure meeting room aboard the Defiant, Reed and his senior officers listened as Ilara explained their dire situation. The Void conquers through inevitability, she continued. They calculate every possibility until victory is certain, then they attack. But your tactics follow no discernible pattern our analysts can identify. You introduce chaos. Dr. Okafor nodded thoughtfully. Human decision-making incorporates intuition, emotion, and sometimes completely irrational choices. We often do things simply because they feel right, rather than because they're optimal. Precisely. Ilara's multifaceted eyes gleamed. And this is why we need your help. The Void cannot predict what they cannot understand. Reed considered the implications. You're suggesting we join your war. I am suggesting that without intervention, the Void will eventually discover your homeworld. They tolerate no technological civilization that could one day challenge them. 2 weeks later, the Defiant participated in its first coordinated operation with Luminary forces. A Void supply convoy had been detected near the contested Procyon system. Reed proposed a strategy so unconventional that the Luminary commanders initially thought it was a translation error. You want us to broadcast our attack plans openly? Admiral Zenith, the Luminary fleet commander, asked incredulously. Exactly, Reed explained. The Void expects deception. Their algorithms will identify our broadcast as a feint and prepare for the opposite, but will actually do exactly what we said we would. The simplest deception is sometimes no deception at all, Wong added. The Luminary forces were skeptical but desperate enough to try. When the operation commenced, the results exceeded all expectations. The Void fleet positioned themselves to counter a deception that never came, leaving their supply ships vulnerable to the Defiant's direct assault. 6 Void vessels were disabled without a single Luminary casualty. More importantly, the Void forces retreated in disarray, something the Luminaries had rarely witnessed in centuries of conflict. As the Defiant prepared to return to Earth with Luminary representatives, Reed knew humanity stood at a crossroads. They had unwittingly become participants in an interstellar war, and their actions would forever change Earth's place in the cosmos. We came looking for new worlds, Reed told his assembled crew. Instead, we found a war. But we also found something else, proof that humanity's unpredictability, our apparent chaos, might be our greatest strength among the stars. As the Defiant initiated its return trajectory, a communication arrived from a captured Void command node. The message was brief but chilling. The unpredictable ones must be studied. Earth coordinates logged for priority assessment. The war had followed them home. The rising storm. Colonel Maya Santos crouched behind the wreckage of what had once been a Void scout ship, her combat armor streaked with carbon scoring. 3 years into humanity's involvement in the interstellar conflict, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Thorn Squad, report positions, she subvocalized into her neural link. 5 acknowledgements came back instantly, 3 human, 2 luminary. Her mixed species strike team represented the new reality of Earth's military, integrated forces that combined human unpredictability with luminary technology. Target is 300 meters north, reported Lieutenant Kowalski, her recon specialist. Heavy security presence. They know something valuable is inside. Santos checked her weapon, a hybrid design incorporating void components captured in previous engagements. Remember the objective. We need access to their central database. Everything else is secondary. The mission was critical. For the past 8 months, the Void had been adapting to human tactics, incorporating randomness into their own strategies. What had once been humanity's advantage was slowly eroding as the enemy evolved. They're learning from us, Admiral Zhang had explained during the mission briefing back on Luna Base. This facility contains a strategic analysis node. If we can access it, we might learn what they're planning next. Santos signaled her team forward. As they advanced through the alien structure's shadowed corridors, she reflected on how rapidly humanity had advanced. Cities on Earth now featured luminary architecture alongside human designs. Children studied xenobiology in elementary school. The global economy had transformed around war production and alien technology integration. Progress had come at a cost. 23 million dead in the Battle of Mars. The ruins of Lagos and Shanghai. The entire population of New Zealand evacuated when the Void targeted their geothermal power experiments. Contact front, warned Sergeant Rivera, the team's heavy weapons specialist. 3 Void sentries blocked their path. Unlike the algorithmic patterns of early encounters, these moved with unsettling randomness, clear evidence of their adaptation to human tactics. Valari, your show, Santos ordered. Lieutenant Valari, a luminary psionic specialist, stepped forward. Unlike humans, luminaries possessed limited telepathic abilities, useless against the hive-minded Void under normal circumstances, but Santos had developed an unorthodox application. Valari projected not a coherent thought, but an emotional broadcast, raw human panic, amplified and directed at the Void sentries. The effect was immediate. The sentries froze, their collective consciousness temporarily disrupted by an emotional state they couldn't process. Move, Santos ordered, and her team eliminated the confused enemies with precision shots. 17 minutes later, they'd reached the central database chamber. Tech specialist Choi connected their infiltration device, a quantum interface designed by Earth's brightest minds working alongside luminary engineers. I've got access, Choi reported after tense moments of work. Downloading now. His expression darkened as data streamed across his visor. Colonel, you need to see this. Santos viewed the strategic projections and felt ice form in her stomach. The Void hadn't just been adapting to human tactics, they had completely reoriented their war strategy. Previously, they had targeted luminary core worlds, focusing on strategic military assets. Now, their primary target was Earth. They've classified humanity as an existential threat, Choi explained. These are preparations for a full-scale assault on the Sol system. They're committing over 60% of their fleet. How long? Santos demanded. 83 hours until the first wave arrives. The team extracted under heavy fire, losing Sergeant Rivera in the process. As their stealth ship broke orbit, Santos transmitted the intelligence directly to UNSC headquarters with the highest priority designation. Back on Earth, the response was immediate. Every available ship in humanity's newly built defense fleet was recalled to the Sol system. Civilian evacuations to underground shelters began worldwide. The Luminary Alliance dispatched reinforcements, but most were too far away to arrive before the Void Fleet. Admiral Helena Frost, now Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, addressed a global broadcast. For 3 years, we have fought alongside the Luminary Alliance against the Void Collective. Today, the war comes to our home. Make no mistake, this will be humanity's darkest hour. But darkness is where humanity has always shined brightest. 79 hours later, the Void arrived. Over 900 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Earth's defenders numbered barely 300 vessels, a mixture of human-built warships and luminary reinforcements. The battle began at Jupiter's orbit. Earth's ships employed tactics no military strategist would consider rational, deliberate collisions, weapons overloaded to the point of self-destruction, and attack formations that seemed entirely random. Colonel Santos led Thorne's squadron in a series of hit-and-run attacks against Void command ships. The key isn't to win conventionally, she told her pilots. It's to make them waste processing power trying to predict us. For 18 hours, the battle raged across the solar system. Earth's forces, despite being outnumbered, managed to slow the Void advance. But by the time the enemy reached Mars' orbit, half of humanity's fleet had been destroyed. In her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Frost received the grim reports. Status of Operation Bedlam, she asked her staff. Ready to implement, Admiral, replied General Okonkwo. Though we only get one shot at this. Operation Bedlam represented humanity's ultimate gamble, the deployment of a new technology that exploited a fundamental weakness in the Void's hive consciousness. For months, scientists had studied captured Void technology, looking for vulnerabilities. The Void operates on quantum entanglement, Dr. Aisha Rahman had explained when presenting the theory. Their shifts share information instantaneously across vast distances. It's how they coordinate so effectively. But that connection is also a potential weakness. As the first wave of Void ships entered Earth orbit, Frost gave the order: initiate Bedlam. Across the solar system, specially modified satellites activated, broadcasting a complex quantum signal directly into the Void fleet's communication network. The signal contained no malicious code or attack. It was simply pure mathematical noise, random to the point of true chaos. For a species that operated on perfect information sharing, the effect was devastating. The Void consciousness, for the first time in its existence, experienced the equivalent of sensory overload. Ships lost coordination. Weapons fired at empty space. Some vessels collided with each other. In that moment of confusion, Earth's remaining forces struck with everything they had. Colonel Santos led a desperate assault on the Void flagship, her pilots executing maneuvers so reckless that no sane commander would anticipate them. We're not just being unpredictable anymore, Santos told her squadron. We're being impossible. The tide turned. As the Bedlam signal continued to disrupt the Void network, human and luminary forces drove back the invaders ship by ship. After 36 hours of continuous battle, the remaining Void vessels retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed with their collective consciousness in disarray. Earth had survived, but at tremendous cost. Coastal cities lay in ruins from orbital bombardment. Millions were dead or missing. The atmosphere was choked with debris that would take years to clear. Yet something profound had changed in the galaxy's perception of humanity. Where once they had been seen as primitive newcomers, now they were viewed with a mixture of awe and fear. In the aftermath, a captured Void commander was brought before Admiral Frost for interrogation. The alien being, connected to a translation device, conveyed a message that would echo across human history. "You are the first species to truly threaten us," it communicated. "The luminaries fight with order and reason. We can predict and counter such methods. But humans, the alien struggle to articulate the concept. Humans embrace chaos. You act against your own self-interest. You sacrifice without calculation. You defy prediction not because you are random, but because you choose to be. The Void will return, but the stars will remember this day, when humanity taught the galaxy to fear." As reconstruction began, Colonel Santos stood on the observation deck of the orbital station Redemption, looking down at the scared but surviving Earth. Was it worth it? Asked Valari, who had remained her steadfast companion throughout the war. Santos thought of all they had lost, and all they had gained. Earth was now undeniably part of a larger cosmic community. Human technology had advanced centuries within years, and perhaps most importantly, humanity had proven that their unique nature, their willingness to embrace chaos, to act on intuition, to defy the odds, was not a weakness but their greatest strength. Ask me again in 100 years, Santos replied, watching as shuttles carried supplies to the rebuilding efforts below. But I think the galaxy needs what humanity brings to it. Not just our chaos, but our hope. Our belief that impossible odds are just another challenge to overcome. As night fell across the wounded Earth, lights flickered on across every continent, a testament to humanity's resilience. And in distant parts of the galaxy, the story spread of the species so unpredictable, so fierce in defense of their home, that even the void had learned to fear them. The war would continue, but its nature had changed forever. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as explorers or diplomats, but as warriors who defied prediction, and the stars themselves now held their breath to see what humans would do next.